Hello, welcome to my channel. Now I've chosen this scene today because Andalusia has some of the strongest light in southern Europe. There's whitewashed walls, terracotta roofs and those warm shadows that fall cleanly across the street. Now with this scene, I think it captures all of it, and I'll take you through from the first wash straight through to the final detail so you can follow the structure I use for these Mediterranean subjects. Now straight into the painting with a wash of cobalt blue, quite watery. Got the ball tilted at an angle so the paint runs down. Just adding a little water as the sky gets further down, and going around the figure. And quite quickly, as I haven't wetted the paper. Putting a little Chinese white on the palette as I normally do. I like to use this to good effect with some of the paints. In this case, it's Payne's grey. Rather than water it down more, I just put a little bit of Chinese white with it so I can use it thicker. And just doing the first wash over these buildings on the right hand side. It's all going to dry very much lighter. Just doing some abstract shapes, quite loose, quite watery. Even going back into the blue mixture there just to vary it a bit. Using a large palette as I normally do, which means I can mix up quite a large amount of paint and also leave a lot of the different mixes that I make on the palette. Just going over the fronts of these buildings. As I say, it will dry out quite a bit lighter. These are whitewashed buildings, but they're in shade, so there won't be white. They'll be reflecting the sky colour and also the greens from the flowers growing up the walls. I'll tell you the brushes I'm using as I go. With the first wash, I used a #2 Red Dot collection from Rosemary Co, and I've just moved on to a #12 Round Series 301. That's from Rosemary Co too. It's got a bit more of a point than the other brush. I'm not using too many brushes for this. Probably use about 4 or 5. I have a pot of water, clean water, and a sponge that I put the brush on to take the excess out. Once again, I've done the rooftops and just some abstract shapes, just getting a first wash on here and there, just getting a feel for the subject. There's going to be lots of red flowers here on the right hand wall there, so I want some red reflections of light. So just going over the area. This is light red, wet into wet, going over the wet paint with fresh paint, but don't make it too watery. Always go with thicker paint. Try and judge your amounts of paint as you go. As I say, if you're doing wet into wet, go with thicker paint. And if you go with thinner paint, then you end up with these nasty blooms, cauliflowers that you get. And sometimes they look okay, but quite often you don't want them. Moving on with some sap green and alizarin crimson, just to tone down that sap green colour a little bit. Bring in the bottom part of this area where there's trees and bushes and things. Being careful to go around the figure. That's an important part of this subject, this painting. I'll throw that area there on the left of the figures back into way back into the distance there. So using cerulean blue, it's cold blue. Cold colours recede, warm colours come forward. Just trying to get a variety of greens in here. French ultramarine with the sap green. You notice that I use ready mixed green rather than mixing the greens from scratch. Just personal preference. I think there's no right and wrongs with art. It's just what you're comfortable with. You could be told certain things, but I always think rules are to be broken. And if you paint a lot, you can experiment, and then you can think to yourself, well, I don't know what the fuss is about. Things like putting white into the colour. Never used to do that. I was always worried that it would make the colours uh, different in a not a very nice way. And I found that to be not the case. So I quite often use it, tone down some of my skies, use it to tone down greys. As I say, it's quite useful when you don't want to water down the paint too much. I paint quite quickly, and I don't particularly want to be hanging around waiting for these extremely wet washes to dry out on a lot of occasions. I do use a dryer, and when I use it when I'm filming, I don't. I take that out of the film. I don't show that because I think that is awful when you have to listen to that noise when you're watching a demo. Even using a dryer is frowned upon by some artists, but I don't have a problem with that. Now this is dried, and I'm going over again with some of this green mixture. Really just using a variety of blues with the green, French ultramarine, cobalt blue. Sometimes I'll dip into the Payne's grey. Just want to get it darker and darker in areas. Get that nice dark against light effect. Just concentrating on the greens at the moment. A bit of wet into wet again with the green. These are the flowers growing up the walls. Keeping it all very simple, this first stage of the painting. Looking at the connection of everything. As you can see, everything here is connected. Slowly starting to take shape. When you start these paintings where there's areas of different colours and abstract shapes. You kind of have to visualize where you're going to be at the end of it all, and just hope that and hope for the best. Hope it all comes together. Still working on these greens. Just light green going to darker green, and you'll notice I'm paying attention to the where the wall of this closest building is, and the line of vines and things growing on the wall there. Make that nice and dark against that light wall. Really throw that forward. Really add some life to the painting. And then just going around these figures with a darker colour. My hand's in the way at the moment, but yeah, you can see that I've gone around that figure. Very, very thick paint. And now this is, I've dipped the brush into the pot of clean water, and I'm just brushing this water up, bringing that clean paint upwards, and that will give it a nice, that'll blend it in nicely with those top colours, rather than, there'll be an edge but not a severely hard edge. And while that's wet, another wash of cerulean blue on the left hand side, trees in the distance, left hand side of these figures. Sun's to the right in this picture, and as you can see, I've done the outline of the shadows there. I don't normally do my outlines like this when I'm doing paintings that are not on the channel. I'm doing my exhibition stuff on that, but I do it for this channel because it's good for you to work from if you're not confident with where the shadows might be, and also with the flowers, windows, uh, and the perspective of things. I I do this so that if you're in my Patreon channel, you can get the you can download these images of my my initial outline drawing, so you can work from them. Which, if you're not very confident with your drawing yet, it can just speed things up, so you can get to the painting stage much quicker. Going back with light red. Red and green are great colours together. Holding the brush much further up the handle. Want it to work quite loosely. Just trying to get some background tones before the actual flowers go in. A bit of dark colour for the roof. This is raw umber I'm using for that for the roof. Paper today, Saunders Waterford, £200 rough. Paints I use, Winsor & Newton and Jackson's own brand watercolors. Just letting things dry a little bit on the right hand side now, so just starting on these two figures. There's a man and a child, little girl. Just to add some interest to that part of the painting, and also to add some scale, so you can see the size of the buildings. They're not particularly big. Now I'm dipping into cadmium red, just a little bit of alizarin crimson to tone that red down a little bit. Just touching some of this paint there and letting it do its thing. Not too much, otherwise the red will spread everywhere. This is meant to be just large flowers on the walls. Still holding that brush quite loosely, 3/4 of the way up the handle. Just holding the tip of it. Excellent point on these brushes. This one I'm using at the moment is the number 12 pointed round. And, that's synthetic, but holds a lot of paint. Keeps a good point. Take a lot of punishment as well before the tip starts to wear out. Just going up to the left hand side now and doing some of these figures. Putting in the red bits. And now that the red's dried on these walls, going in with some much thicker paint now. Still cadmium red and alizarin crimson. See how that colour attracts the eye. Takes your eye straight to the figures walking. Little girl's dress and the shoulder bag on the man. Just adding some more shapes to these walls. Just abstract shapes. They're meant to be very old buildings. Probably bits of plaster and things missing on the outsides. Need of a paint. Bringing some darks around the figure as well, making him stand out even more. Just surrounding him with darks. Really makes that figure pop out of the painting. I'm using a colour called Jaune Brilliant for the flesh colour on these two figures. Just using a large brush. If you don't have that colour, just use or sienna and some white. Still working on these shapes on the walls behind these flowers that are growing up them. Mixing just a little bit of sepia into that greeny mixture on the palette. The name of the palette is a John Pike palette, which I purchased from America. I was just going around doing these windows and some of the features. Switch to a smaller brush. This is the size 8 pointed round series from Rosemary Co. And if you want the series number, it's 301. And also using a number 2 rigger brush. This is an Eclipse rigger from Rosemary Co too, using that. And just putting in some of the wires and things from these poles. Not happy with that. It looks more like rope. Have to work on that one. This will be a good time for me to show you how to correct errors like this. I mean, I could leave that there, but to me, it catches the eye too much. So I'm going to do just a little bit of work to remove this. Clean water. It's still wet. I do have the issue of it being in the sky area, so I can't put colours into to lose that. So I've lost a little bit of the colour with that water. Now going again, I put tissue on it to take some of the paint out. Now going again, clean water and a tissue, just taking out some of that colour. Now going over these bushes in the distance. I was going to leave it as it was, but the bushes, but I'm going to put another wash on there to lose this awful line that I put in there. It's not a problem, I will get rid of it. Now add some of that red mixture. As you can see, that looks quite pleasant in the distance, that reddy colour. As the eye runs along at that level of the painting, you move on to the flowers where I am now. Now going around these flowers now with a dark mixture. This is the sap green, French ultramarine, Payne's grey, making it darker and darker each time I go over it. darken up the greens as well. Just adding fresh paint but leaving some of the lighter colour behind. Just going around doing bits and pieces on the lower part of this building. So all very much abstract shapes. Just thinking to myself, there's some flowers growing up the wall, and then there's parts of it at ground level where the original plant was, where it was originally planted. Going over to the figures and using cobalt blue, putting in some shadow colour. Seems quite dark, but it will dry lighter. You have to make allowances for that, and then just grey, bluey colour for the man's shorts. And popping a little bit on the legs. Very bright day, very deep shadows. Now I'm using neutral tint. There's a lamp there on the wall. It's a very nice feature. I'll be putting that in. Just the outline of it. Breaks up the area quite nicely. Now we'll do some more work on this, losing this very thick line that I put in accidentally. Didn't mean to be nowhere near as thick as that. It was quite clumsy really, but this is an old oil painting brush, and with this quality paper it would take a bit of punishment. So I've wet the area, just scrubbing it a little bit, being mindful. I'm going to take all the surface off, but I'm going to have to put another wash on here to lose that, because it more or less lost all the blue colour as well, but it'll be all right. Sometimes with paintings you do have to do some remedial work, and it's good to know some of the tricks of the trade. Still losing this line that I put in with the rigger brush, much too thick. Scrub quite hard at that to get rid of that. Now I'm going to go back over the sky again, so cobalt blue, using the large number 12 brush again. Just dipped into raw sienna just to take some of that blueness out of the colour. But now I'm going to work quickly now. Going over this sky area. Haven't wet it or anything, just going to go straight in with this colour. It'll be fine if you're quick enough. Now as I come down, I'm adding water to this. I've now lost that cable that I had going across. Now at the bottom part, it really is just bringing that down with water. Got the board at a slight angle so the colour runs down. And there you go, the headline's disappeared. And then I'll eliminate parts of it where the bushes are. And quite a good lesson in how to get yourself out of trouble, really. Now, Payne's Grey, using a larger brush and a smaller brush for this. Going to start putting in the shadows. Small brush for the distance. Just Payne's Grey. Now be working with the outline drawing that I've given you. It'll make this relatively easy to where to put the shadows. Do it in one with shadows if you can. Always better to try and do it in one. Bringing this down, still using that small brush. Lots of paint. Want that bead of paint there to bring down. Switch to the larger brush now. Now what I've done here is I've added some green to this grey mixture. That will be the vine, the green vines, the light of that in amongst the grey shadows, and it just makes it more interesting. I'm just doing a standard colour over everything. Shadows do have colour to them, do reflect the objects that are above them, the light's bouncing off. Back to the small brush, just going around these two figures. You can see what I mean by connection. Everything's connected here. And remember that in your own works. Just to think about that, how's everything connected in my painting? And everything's just a big shape. Now, correcting this wire, some telephone wire or something, very, very fine tipped rigger brush. Just taking some of it out there. I really just want this just to catch your eye. I don't want it to be a major feature. I do like to put some of these old wires in, which you invariably get in these places. Add to the charm of the place. That's much better now. Just a hint of into this cable going across. Looking around at where else I can go with this dark colour. This is getting really dark now with neutral tint. Going to put in some really dark areas around these flowers. I'm just putting in some marks on the ground here. Not quite sure what a lot of them are, but it's just to make it a little bit more interesting than that flat grey wash where the shadow is. Popping a signature on. Now, if you want the full guided version of this lesson, the outline drawing, the reference image, the mixes, the notes, and the A4 pack, it's all available on my Patreon. Everything I talk about in these videos is included, so you can paint along with a clear structure. And that's it. That brings us to the end of this Andalusian street painting. The key ideas here were warm light, clean values, and confident edges. Use this approach in your own Mediterranean paintings. It works across villages, coastal streets, and courtyards. Taking the masking tape off to reveal the edge of the painting. And I quite like to pop a mount over just to look at it as a finished painting. Quite happy with that one. Thanks for painting along with me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.